My family skipped my baby shower, so I quietly canceled every bill I paid and they fell apart. These said it wasn't that important, so I stopped pretending they were. You'd be amazed how quickly love turns into obligation. How easily family forgets you the moment you stop performing. It started with a text from my cousin Marcy on a Thursday afternoon. I was sitting on my balcony in a loose sundress, legs propped on a footstool, 34 weeks pregnant, feeling like a stretched-out watermelon with ankles that had surrendered weeks ago. "Hey, are you doing a shower or something?" My mom said she hadn't heard. Before we go further, don't forget to like this story, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what happens next. I stared at the message, reread it, then blinked slowly. A baby shower. My baby shower, the one we talked about over brunch back in March. The one my sister Camille said she'd totally plan. The one my mom, Nora, had casually said would be something simple but sweet. The one I hadn't wanted to pester them about because I was too busy keeping my head above water and trying to keep this baby in me despite the fact that I was alone, exhausted, and hadn't seen my feet in weeks. So I texted back. I thought Camille and Mom were handling it. Marcy sent a long pause. Then, they haven't said anything. I think Camille's been busy with Lila's dance thing. Lila, my 9-year-old niece, the family's golden child, a walking glitter bomb of performances and Pinterest-worthy birthday parties. Of course, I tried to play it off, said, "No worries," and put my phone down. But that's when the spiral started. You know when you feel something snap, but it doesn't make a sound? That was me. I went to my freezer, pulled out a popsicle, sat back down, and started scrolling. Not TikTok, Venmo, bank statements, autopay lists, because here's the part they conveniently forgot. While they were too boozy to throw me a shower, I'd been quietly funding half their lives. I paid for Camille's car insurance on my group plan, Dylan's and my brother phone line, part of my family plan since college, Mom's utility bills. I'd been sending her dad $150 a month for just a year's grocery gift, cool bruds for Lila Drake, Spotify, Biz, and Netflix. Of course, Amazon Prime. Net Hein, guess who's the primary on the accounts? Only one of them being me, plan with 6 members. Just a little hut account. Not because they asked, though sometimes they did, but because I offered. Because I thought that's what family does. They said thank you. At first. Then it turned into, "Hey, can you cover this month just until I get paid? I'll Venmo you back tomorrow." You're so organized. You probably don't even notice the extra. Except I did. I noticed every time. When I was in my second trimester, and my ex Brandon ghosted me for 3 weeks after saying he wasn't ready to be a dad, I didn't hear from my mom, or my sister, or my brother. But when I sent $100 for Dylan's parking ticket, he replied within 10 minutes. That night I called Camille. Straight to voicemail. Then Mom. She picked up on the third ring. "Hey, sweetie! Hey, quick question, were you and Camille still planning something for the baby?" Silence. "Oh, honey. I mean, we talked about it, but then things got busy. And you know how the girls have dance and Camille's been slammed with work and..." "You forgot." "No, we just didn't think it was that important. It's your first baby. You're not even married yet. It's not like it's a wedding or anything." I blinked. "Right," I said. "Not like it's a wedding." There was a pause, and then she said, "Well, maybe we could do something after she's born, right? A pity party when I was already sleep deprived and breastfeeding through tears." "No need," I said. "I've got it." She sounded relieved. "Okay, good. I knew you'd understand." I hung up before I said something unforgivable. And that was it. That was the moment I realized I had made myself useful, but never important. They loved the version of me who handed out cash, managed bills, sent thoughtful birthday gifts, and never asked for much back. But this version, the one who was about to become a mom, scared and overwhelmed and maybe in need of a little celebration, they didn't have room for her. So I sat down at my laptop. I opened every account I could think of: Cell Plan, Spotify, Prime, Netflix, grocery card reload system, auto pay utilities, and I made a list, every single financial tie I had to them. Then I started canceling, one by one. No announcement. No heads up. No drama. 2 days later, Camille texted, "Hey, is your Netflix down?" It logged me out. I didn't respond. An hour later. Also, did our Prime get canceled? I had Lila's recital shoes in the cart. Still silent. Then Mom called. "Honey, the electric company said the account was shut off for new card info." I said, "That's right." A pause. "Well, are you going to update it?" "No, Mom, I'm not." Another pause. "But I don't have time to open a new one. I've had it in your name for so long." "I know." "Wheat. What's going on?" I smiled, be kicked. And I said, very softly, "I just figured since the baby shower wasn't important, neither were the extras." Then I hung up. They said I was so independent. What they meant was, we know you'll never say no. The thing about becoming the family's reliable one is it doesn't happen all at once. It's not a big moment, it's 1,000 little ones. Unpaid IOs, emergency calls at 11 p.m., a new Venmo request that's with just until Friday. And before you know it, your name's on more bills than your own landlord sees. But back then, I thought it meant I was strong. It started in college. My younger brother Dylan got into some trouble during his second semester. Nothing huge, just reckless spending, some overdrafts, and a car that was more Instagram than insurance. Mom called me crying. Said she didn't know what to do. Said he might have to drop out if they couldn't cover $1,300 housing balance. I was 24, working 2 jobs, paying rent on a 400 square foot walk up in Mason Ridge. But I said, I'll figure it out. And I did. I took a temp gig on weekends, drained my emergency savings, ate ramen and peanut butter for weeks. He never said thank you. Just texted. Housing went through. Appreciated. That's when it started. After that, it was like they decided I was the adultiest adult. Dylan's parking tickets. I paid them. Camille's credit card late fees. I fronted the minimums. Mom's heating bill during that one bad winter. Covered it, plus a little extra. I didn't resent it. Not then. Because I thought this is what family does. But here's what they never told me when they called me the responsible one. They didn't mean it as a compliment. They meant it as a permission slip. Over the years, I became their default. Camille lost her job in 2019. I gave her my Uber Eats login and ordered groceries to her place every week. Dylan totaled his car. I co-signed the lease on his next one. Despite every cell in my body screaming not to. Mom decided to quit her job for her mental health. I never questioned it. Just upped the monthly transfer from $150 to $50, even when I got promoted, even when I was struggling, even when I went through a breakup so brutal I stopped eating for 3 days and had to lie to my boss about why I couldn't come in. They didn't call to check on me, but they always remembered to text if the streaming password stopped working. I remember once Camille told me, "You're so lucky you don't need anyone." I almost laughed. I needed people. I just didn't have them. When I found out I was pregnant, I didn't tell anyone right away. Brandon and I weren't married. We weren't even solid. I was 32, working full-time in a small publishing house, barely managing a leaky apartment and a savings account that was half dedicated to keeping other people's lights on. I stared at that little plus sign on the test and thought, how am I going to do this alone? Then I thought, wait, I won't be alone. I have family. That was the last time I believed that. I told Mom first. Her reaction, oh wow, that's unexpected. But I guess you're old enough now. Old enough. Like I was a teenager announcing a mistake instead of a grown woman building a life. Then she added, well, babies are expensive. You'll have to budget really carefully. No offer of help, no excitement, just a warning. Camille was even worse. She texted me 3 days later, so are you keeping it? I nearly threw my phone across the room. To their credit, they didn't say anything cruel after that. They just disappeared. A few surface-level texts, a couple likes on my announcement photo, but nothing real. How are you feeling? No. Do you need anything? Just silence and bills. One day around 24 weeks in, I was organizing baby things that I'd bought myself. Little onesies, bottles, some diapers I snagged on sale, and realized everything in the nursery had come from me. Everything. I looked around and thought, if I stopped helping them, would they even notice I was the one who needed help now? It didn't feel like a bitter thought. It felt like math. And then came the baby shower debacle, the casual. We didn't think it was that important. And suddenly, all the math added up. All the times I'd shown up for them fearing, and the single time I asked to be seen, they just didn't. I wasn't mad that they didn't plan a party. I was mad that they didn't think I deserved one. That somehow, despite paying their bills, lifting their burdens, and never once asking for anything in return, I had become less than forgettable, uncelebrated. So when I started canceling things, the phone plans, the auto pays, the family lodgings, it wasn't spite. It was a recalibration, a rebalancing of an equation I'd been solving wrong for years. Because they didn't just forget the shower. They forgot me. They noticed the bills I stopped paying. But not the silence I kept for years. I didn't expect the world to fall apart overnight. When I canceled the streaming accounts, I thought maybe they'd just open their own. When I took Mom's name off the utility card, I figured she'd grumble and then sort it out. When I removed Camille from the family phone plan, I assumed she'd just roll over into her husband's coverage like she should have done years ago. But I underestimated something big. They'd built their comfort on the idea that I'd never stop. The first message came from Dylan. Hey, my phone's been off since this morning. Did you forget to pay the bill? Did I forget? No, Dylan. I remembered. I remembered the AITA I sent when you said your tire popped. I remembered the 200 I never got back after you swore your refund was coming. I remembered the months you didn't say thank you. Just, yo, it went through. But I didn't text him any of that. I said, I removed you from the plan. You'll need to open your own. 3 dots. No reply. Then Camille. Her text always read like tweets, short, sarcastic, and 2 seconds from being passive-aggressive. Suo. Amazon's down. Leela's recital costume was in the cart. Did we change logins? Nope, no. Accounts deactivated. You'll need to create your own. 3 minutes later. Whoa. Seriously? You're just cutting us off now. She didn't mention the baby. She didn't ask how I was doing. It was all, what did you stop giving? Not, why did we stop caring? Mom didn't text. She called. She started, all soft-voiced, like this was a misunderstanding. The electric company says the auto pay card is invalid. Did something happen? Wes, I said. I took my name off the account. A silence. Then, but the bill's due Friday. I know. You can't just stop helping all of a sudden. I stared at the window, one hand on my belly, the baby pressing gently against my ribs. I didn't stop all of a sudden, I said. I stopped after a decade. She was quiet for a beat. Then came the guilt bomb. I just wish you would have said something before making everything difficult. I laughed. Actually laughed. Mom, I've been saying things for years. You just weren't listening. Then I hung up. That night I made spaghetti for one. Watched a rerun of a comfort show I'd seen a dozen times. The baby kicked when the laugh track played, like she knew this was our first quiet evening without being weighed down by other people's chaos. It felt light. The next week was a slow motion unraveling. Camille's daughter Leela missed a practice because the rideshare gift card I used to top off didn't go through. Dylan emailed to ask if I could at least finish out the month on his phone plan. I replied, I'm preparing to give birth alone. You can figure out your cell bill. He didn't reply. Then came the group text. Yes, the group text. The one my family only uses for birthdays, holidays, and sending memes they all think are hilarious but are always weirdly passive. Camilla, hey, can we talk about what's going on with Tessa? Mom's upset. We're all confused. Bless her. Replied before I had to. She's pregnant alone. And all y'all forgot her baby shower. Maybe you should be confused about how you managed that. Camille, that's not fair. But Marcy, neither is expecting her to bankroll your lives while acting like she's dramatic for having feelings. I nearly cried. Not because Marcy defended me, but because someone finally noticed. A few days later, Rachel, our cousin from out of town, texted me. Just saw the group chat. You okay? I said. I've never been better. And weirdly, I meant it. See, it's not that I wanted them to suffer. I just wanted them to sit in the vacuum, the absence of me. The space I'd once filled with money, logistics, gifts, plans, apologies, and grace. I wanted them to feel the gap. That was me. And now, I was filling it with peace. With warm baths and quiet mornings. With books I didn't have to reread because someone interrupted me. With nursery painting and prenatal yoga and little moments where I remembered that I mattered too. The bills were bouncing. But I wasn't. I was blooming. These showed up ready to fix the fallout, not the damage. I wasn't letting them skip the hard part. It was a Tuesday. Early evening, the kind of late summer air that sticks to your skin and makes you want to stay barefoot all day. I was 36 weeks pregnant, waddling, cranky, and deeply committed to ignoring the outside world in favor of watermelon slices and rewatching home renovation shows. Then came the knock, not a light tap. Not the coops. Forgot to text first knock. This was urgent. Like someone had come to collect something they thought still belonged to them. I pulled open the door, and there they were. Mom, Camille, Dylan, all standing there like a makeshift intervention group. Faces tight. Eyes full of expectation, not remorse. Mom stepped forward first. Hi, sweetie. I didn't move. What's going on? We wanted to talk. In person. But Camille chimed in. This has all gotten so dramatic. We figured if we just sat down and cleared the air. I don't owe you an air clearing, I said. Dylan raised his hands. Okay, can we not jump down our throats? We just want to know what's going on. Why are you cutting us off financially like this? Without a warning. I leaned on the doorway. One hand on my belly, which at this point could have knocked over a toddler. You forgot my baby shower, I said plainly. Camille rolled her eyes. We didn't forget. We just didn't think you were expecting some big thing. You're right. I cut in. I wasn't expecting anything big. I was expecting something. A cake. A folding chair. A sentence that sounded like, you matter and this baby matters. Mom folded her arms. No, I said. You love what I do. You love when I pay bills, answer late-night texts, send you grocery cards and nod quietly while you talk about your problems. I took a deep breath. You don't love me. You don't see me. And now that I'm not giving, you're finally noticing I'm not there. Dylan scoffed. So this is about money? No, I snapped. This is about value. For a second, no one spoke. Then Mom softened her voice. I know we've leaned on you, but you've always been the strong one. You've always had it together. There it was. That old, tired compliment wrapped in a manipulation bow. You mean I've always acted like I had it together? Because I had no choice. Because none of you ever stopped long enough to ask what it was costing me. I stepped aside. Come in. Not because I wanted them in my space, because I wanted them to sit in what they broke. They walked in slowly like they expected me to start yelling. But I was calm. Too calm. We sat around the small living room, the one I'd decorated for the baby. Neutral tones. A few soft animals. The bassinet nestled in the corner. Camille looked at it and blinked fast. This is real, she whispered. No kidding, I said. She looked down. I didn't think you were really going through with it alone. Brandon's gone, I said, and none of you filled that silence. Dylan shifted uncomfortably. We didn't mean to make you feel abandoned, he said. You just never asked for anything. I did, I said. You just didn't hear me. Because it wasn't loud. It wasn't convenient. It wasn't in the tone you're used to me using. Mom's voice cracked. Sweetheart, we've made mistakes. Stop. Really looked at her. I'm not asking for an apology. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I just need you to see it, all of it. Camel's eyes filled. She said quietly. I see it now. You've done everything for us. And when you needed something back, we were just gone. That surprised me. It must have surprised Mom too, because she turned and looked at Camille like she'd just grown a second head. You're siding with her. I'm not siding with anyone, Camille said. I'm just telling the truth. That cracked something. Camille, for all her flaws, had never stood with me like that. And now? Now she sat forward and looked right at me. You've been raising this baby alone, she said. And you've been raising us for years. I'm done doing both, I said. Dylan sighed. So what now? You just cut us off, forever. I shrugged. You're adults, you can figure it out. The same way I have. The difference is I did it without a backup. Mom tried one more guilt push. What about holidays? Are we just going to pretend we're not family? I looked at her, and for the first time I didn't feel sad. I just felt free. I'm not pretending anymore, Mom. That's the difference. But they left quietly. No shouting. No slammed doors. Just silence. Like they knew the version of me who cleaned up their messes was gone for good. Later that night, I got a text from Marcy. Heard the storm rolled through. You okay? Yeah, I replied. They saw. They finally listened. Good. You deserve to be heard. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had been. They apologized, not because they understood, but because their comfort was gone. The days after the confrontation were oddly quiet. No follow-ups, no apology cards, no crying voicemails, just silence. And I thought, maybe they finally heard me. But no, they were just regrouping. It started with Camille. I got a message 3 days later that read, so I talked to Mom. We get it now. Do you want to do a welcome baby thing after she's born? Low key. Just family, we'll keep it super. No, I'm sorry. No, we were wrong. Just a thinly disguised, can we patch this up so you'll start giving again? I didn't respond. An hour later, another text. You're seriously gonna ignore me now? Then, you're being so cold, Tessa. You've never been like this before. That part made me pause. Because it was true. I hadn't been like this before. But they'd never left me pregnant alone and emotionally bankrupt before either. So, here we were. Mom tried a softer tactic. A few days later, she sent a picture of a pair of tiny booties. Pink. Hand knit. These were yours? I saved them. Thought you might want them for the baby. I stared at the message for a long time. My therapist once told me, some people offer you breadcrumbs and call it love, because that's all they ever learned to give. This was a breadcrumb. Nostalgia wrapped in avoidance. A gesture, instead of accountability. Then came Dylan. He showed up, not a call, not a text, an actual uninvited knock on my door. I opened it, belly first as always. He looked sheepish. He said, scratching the back of his neck. You look good. I look huge, I said flatly. He smiled. Still good. I didn't invite him in. He leaned on the railing instead. Look, I just wanted to say I've been a jerk for a long time. I raised an eyebrow. He sighed. Yeah, I think. There was a pause. The kind that usually held an excuse. But it didn't come. I didn't mean to treat you like a bank account, he said. I guess I just got used to you always showing up. I didn't say anything. Doesn't mean it was right. He added quickly, I miss you. That landed differently. I still didn't let him in, but I said, thanks. And he nodded. That was small, uneasy, but honest. 2 days later, Camille called me sobbing. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened while folding onesies. Tessa, I'm sorry, okay? I messed up. But I'm drowning over here. Lila's dance tuition bounced. I can't get Mom to stop crying. Dylan says you talked. And I feel like I'm losing you. She took a shaky breath. You were always the one holding us together. And now you're not. And I don't know how to fix it. That was the part that stuck with me. You were always the one holding us together. It was meant to guilt me. But all it did was make me realize, I don't want to be the one holding them together anymore. The next week was a cascade of emotional whiplash, apologies, justifications, backhanded compliments, love bombs. Mom sent a long email with, I'm sorry, in the subject line and 3 full paragraphs of, but you know how hard things have been on me lately. Dylan sent me a DoorDash code and a note that said, thought you might need some comfort food. Camille Venmo'd me with the caption with $1 for diapers. Or revenge, your choice. That one made me laugh. But I still didn't reply, because I didn't need another apology without change. Then came the final card, a physical one, in the mail. From Handwritten. Inside, it said, I didn't know how invisible you felt, because I never stopped to ask. You deserved a party, a parade, a palace, and instead we made you feel like a burden. I'm sorry I never saw your exhaustion as sacred. I do now. I sat on my couch, that card in my hand, the baby fluttering gently like she was reading over my shoulder, and I let myself cry. But out of pain. But out of release. Because maybe, just maybe, someone finally saw me, but I didn't text her back. Not yet. Because this wasn't about being heard once. It was about whether they could sit with the discomfort of what they'd done without rushing to erase it. So I stayed quiet, kept walking, kept cooking, kept preparing for my daughter's arrival in a home that, for the first time in years, wasn't cluttered with invisible debt. Let them collapse. Let them cry. Let them scramble. I wasn't cruel. I was clear. I didn't cut them off to hurt them. I cut the cord that was strangling me. The last few weeks of pregnancy blurred into soft edges. Morning tea, evening walks, a growing list of lullabies saved on Spotify, no drama, no begging texts, no we're sorry but, voice squeals, the kind of quiet that used to scare me. Now? It was mine. I went into labor on a Sunday morning, no cinematic water breaking, no panicked rushing, just a slow wave that crested through my body like something ancient and inevitable. I called my doula, packed my hospital bag, and took one last look around my apartment. The nursery corner glowing with soft light, diapers stacked neatly, the bassinet waiting like a quiet promise. I didn't call my family, not because I was angry, because I was clear. She arrived just after midnight. 7 pounds, 1 ounce. Full head of dark hair, fists clenched like she already knew she came from a line of women who don't go down easy. They placed her on my chest, and the world, the noise, the history, the years I spent shrinking, fell away like dead weight, and I whispered through tears, you're safe now. I'm safe now. I named her June, not after anyone. Not a legacy name. Just a clean beginning, a middle-of-the-year name, warm, steady, new. The messages started coming the next morning. Camilla, is she here? Please tell me. Mom, we're thinking of you. Let us know when you're ready. Dylan sent a photo of a baby blanket with J stitched in the corner and no caption. I read them, smiled, and kept my phone on silent. A week later, I sent a group message. June, she's healthy. We're resting. I'll reach out when I'm ready for visitors. A camel replied with a dozen emojis. Mom said, we're so proud of you. But Dylan sent a red heart. But the truth is, I didn't need their praise. Because for once I wasn't doing this to prove anything. A few days after that, Marcy came by. She brought groceries, walked in like a gentle breeze, and didn't ask questions. Just held June like she was something sacred. You changed everything, she whispered to me. I hope you know that. I did. One evening about 2 weeks after June was born, I sat on the couch, her asleep on my chest, watching the sun dip below the skyline. And I thought about the women in my family. The ones who were strong by necessity, not choice. The ones who carried everyone else until their spines gave out. The ones who were celebrated only when they were needed. I promised myself, and June, we'd end that here. Not by becoming heartless. Not by cutting ties to prove a point. But by living in a truth that doesn't require apology. I matter. I don't need to be needed to be loved. I can give, and also receive. I can say no and still be good. I still talk to Camille sometimes. She's trying, in her own clumsy way. She sends clothes, offers babysitting, texts too often, and that's fine, because now I choose when to respond. Mom writes longer texts now. Little reflections. Sometimes an apology sneaks in. She even offered to pay for something. And when I declined, she didn't push. And Dylan, he comes by once a month, brings takeout, holds June like she's made of glass, doesn't ask for anything. People think cutting people off is the harshest thing you can do. But silence isn't always punishment. Sometimes it's a boundary. And sometimes when you enforce it, you make room for new things, peace, clarity. A baby's laugh at 2 a.m. that fills a whole apartment with light. No, I didn't destroy my family. I just stopped carrying it. And you know what? It didn't collapse. It recalibrated. Tessa didn't walk away in anger. She walked toward herself. Her story didn't end with bitterness. It ended with boundaries, peace, and a daughter who will grow up knowing exactly what self-worth looks like. If this story touched you, share it with someone who remembers those days too.